What's going on, guys? Boost Auto here, and in today's video we're going to be going over our Jeep trail mirror installation for 2011 through 2018 Jeep Wrangler, JK, and JKUs. So let's get into it. Get ready to elevate your off-road experience with the all-new Jeep trail mirrors from Boost Auto. Trailblazing just got a whole lot brighter with our cutting-edge features and unparalleled design. Our trail mirrors feature a bright front mirror light available in either white or amber running light. Plus, choose between standard or sequential amber turn signals for that extra touch of personalization. Illuminate the trails ahead with our front spotlights to ensure you leave no stone unturned, with rear-facing reverse light available in high or low output, because visibility should never be compromised, no matter where your adventure takes you. With a disconnect at the door jamb, removing your doors with these trail mirrors on is quick and easy. So gear up, buckle in, and let the Jeep trail mirrors redefine your off-road journey. Available exclusively at boostauto.com. Your kit will include a pair of Jeep trail mirrors and all the necessary components depending on what you've optioned for. Here's a list of all the tools you'll need for this installation. We'll start by rolling down the windows. Open the hood. On the passenger side of the vehicle, disconnect the negative battery cable. For both manual and power windows, proceed with following these next steps. Behind the door handle, remove this trim cover. Pry it out using a trim tool. Remove the torque screw behind it. Then, remove the trim panel using a trim tool. You'll pull on the door handle to maneuver it out. Next, we'll remove this trim panel on the door grab. Use a trim tool to pry it out. Remove the screws on the door grab here and here. At the bottom of the door panel, remove the last two torque screws. If you have a manual rolling window, your door will have a hand crank. To remove it, we'll use two trim tools. There's a clip holding in the crank, so you'll want to pry it out and push on the clip in order to remove it. Pry in between the door hand crank and the washer. Then, take another trim tool and push up on the clip. Once the clip is partially removed, push more to fully release it. Once released, you can pull it out along with the hand crank. As you can see, the clip sits in here, so you want to pry the crank away from the door panel and push up on the tab to release the clip and the hand crank. With that out of the way, we can now remove the door panel. Gently pry out the door panel clips along the edges of the door panel. Once your clips are out of place, lift up on the door panel to remove it. Remove any connectors on the back side of the door panel. With the door panel out of the way, disconnect the mirror connector. On 2011 through 2014 Wranglers, you'll just have this one gray connector located behind this cover. On 2015 to 2018 Wranglers, you'll have two mirror connectors located in this general area. Disconnect all connectors going to your mirror. Take your factory mirror connector and tie it to a piece of twine or string that you provide. We'll need this piece of twine or string to fish the new Jeep trail mirror connector through the vehicle on the other side of the door later on. Push the factory grommet through the door panel. Remove the two bolts holding in the mirror. When removing the bolts, support the mirror from the other side. Now, remove the mirror from the vehicle. With the mirror removed, fish the harness through. Then, untie the connector from the piece of twine or string, being careful it doesn't fall back inside the door because we'll need this piece later on to install our trail mirrors to the vehicle. Take the harness attached to your trail mirror and tie it to a piece of twine or string you just ran through the door panel. Depending on your year range, you'll either have this gray connector or a couple of black connectors. Regardless, tie the piece of twine or string to the connector furthest down. Next, fish it into the door panel. When feeding it in, pull through on the other side. If needed, pliers can help fish the connector through. Again, make sure your mirror is supported on the other side when fishing the harness through. Depending on your year range, you might have 2 or 3 connectors. Regardless, feed the harness through in the same way. Guide your trail mirror all the way, lining up the posts. Then, install your mirror bolts on the other side to secure your mirror in place. We can now plug in our mirror harness to the door panel. On newer Wranglers, you'll have 2 connectors going to the door panel in this general area. On this Jeep, we just have 1 gray connector behind this cover. Peel back on the plastic and reinstall the connector. Next, plug in your intermediary harness to the trail mirror harness. The intermediary harness is the shorter harness included in your kit that has tape on it. The intermediary harness follows the route of the existing door harness with a connection point right by the disconnect for the door. This allows you to detach your Jeep doors with ease. The intermediary harness is not side dependent, so you can use either one from your kit. Route the intermediary harness along the factory door harness to the left of the brake pedal. Line up the connector with the door harness connector. Then secure it to the door harness. Then repeat the same steps on the passenger side. This is the extension harness that will be included in your kit. The pink wire is for the front-facing spotlight. You can tie it to an auxiliary switch, or you can option for our Boost Auto front-facing spotlight harness. The black wire is for ground. The red and yellow wire is for turn signal. Blue is for running light if you option for it. And the white wire will be for the reverse light. Take your extension harness and plug it into the intermediary harness connector. This will allow you to remove your doors with ease. Then, repeat the steps up to this point on the passenger side of the vehicle. Take the wires on the end of the extension harness you just plugged in and tape them to a straightened out metal piece. Take the straightened out metal piece and pass it from the driver's side to the passenger side of the vehicle behind the console. Pull the harness through and untape the harness. First, we'll go ahead and ground the black wire. For this vehicle, we're going to ground it here. Take both black wires from the extension harness and measure it to the ground location, making sure to leave enough slack to tie it up and out of the way. Cut the wires to length. Then, strip both wires. Once done, twist the wires together. Then, crimp it to the ring terminal provided in your kit. Next, we'll remove this nut here. Now install the ring terminal, then the once removed nut. Back near the firewall on the inside of the passenger side, locate this rubber grommet. This is where we'll be routing the red and yellow, white, and blue wires if you option for running light from both the driver and passenger side extension harness through. Outside the vehicle on the passenger side, we must first remove the 6 bolts holding in the fender liner in order to pass the wires through. There's 5 on the inside of the liner and 1 up at the top near the middle of the liner. Remove the 6 bolts holding in the fender liner. We'll remove the connector going to the fender light. Reach under the front of the fender to remove the connector from its housing. Then, further up on the connector wire, pry out the trim clip holding it into place. With that out of the way, gently pry out the fender from the clips holding it into the body of the vehicle. If you happen to break any clips in the fender removal process, don't worry. You can replace the clips with the part numbers shown here. On the passenger side kick panel area, you'll have all the wires from your passenger and driver side extension harnesses present depending on what you've optioned for. Take the 2 pink wires for the front spotlight from the passenger and driver side harness and leave them inside the vehicle. The blue, if you option for running light, red and yellow, and white wires are all going to route through the grommet and under the hood. Also, if you option for our Boost Auto front spotlight harness, separate the red wire on that harness out as that will go through the grommet as well. Tape the wires to a straightened out metal piece. Route the straightened out metal piece through the grommet to the other side of the firewall. With the fender removed, pull the harness through the grommet to the outside of the vehicle. Remove the 2 white wires from the harness as they'll be going to the rear of the vehicle. Take the remaining wires and push them through the fender area and up into the engine bay. Continue pulling the harness through, being careful not to chafe any wires. Untape the wires. Set the red wire off to the side for now. You will have 2 red and yellow wires, and, if you option for running light, 2 more blue wires. The longer blue wire and red and yellow wire are from the passenger side. The shorter blue wire and red and yellow wire are from the driver's side. Guide both of the blue wires, if optioned for running light, and the longer red and yellow wire over to the passenger side park lamp area. For turn and running light, we'll be tapping at the park lamp connector. Pull down on the red locking tab and pull it back to remove the connector from its housing. Then, further up on the connector wire, pry out the trim clip holding it into place. Pin 1 is located closest to the connector tab. We'll be tapping further up on the harness above the trim clip. Follow the correct wire up the harness. Locate the correct wire and pull it from the loom. Next, take the red T-tap provided in your kit and install it at pin 1. Press until it clicks in place. Now take your red and yellow wire that you routed and cut it and strip it. Once done, take your inline fuse tap and take the side with the red butt connector and crimp it to the red and yellow wire. Take the other end and install it to the red T-tap. Now, if you option for running light, we're going to be tapping to pin 2. Go up on the harness and pull the correct wire from the loom. Then, install your red T-tap. Press until it clicks in place. Next, take both blue wires and cut and strip them. Twist the ends together and install the two ends to the red butt connector on your inline fuse. Then, install the other end of the inline fuse to the red T-tap. Heat shrink the butt connectors. Then, reinsert the trim clip. And plug in the park lamp connector. Take the shorter red and yellow wire that we left up top earlier and route it to the driver's side, then down to the park lamp connector. Perform the same steps on the driver's side. On the driver's side, the fender liner can be partially peeled back to gain access to the park lamp connector harness. Remove these 3 trim clips in order to gain access to the connector. Next, we're going to take our 2 white wires for our reverse light and route them to the driver's side taillight. Take the wires down the fender liner, following the frame of the vehicle, and over the rear axle, making sure we're away from any heat or moving components. We can now proceed with removing the driver's side taillight. Remove these 2 screws. Since this is an aftermarket taillight, it'll look a little different than your factory one. Set the taillight to the side. Now, we can feed the 2 white wires from the cavity at the bottom of the taillight opening up to the taillight area. Reach into the opening and pull the wires through. Your factory taillight will have 2 connectors connecting it to, one on the top and one on the bottom. We're interested in the bottom connector, so let's go ahead and disconnect it. Take your 2 white wires, cut it to length, and strip the ends. Twist both ends together, and crimp them to the inline fuse. We'll be tapping to pin 4 for the reverse light. With the connector tab pointing up, pin 4 is on the bottom row all the way to the right. Take your red T-tap from your kit and tap to the wire. Press until it clicks in place. Plug the other end of the inline fuse to the red T-tap you just installed. Heat shrink the butt connector. Then plug the connector back in. Reinstall your taillight and the 2 screws. Line up the fender to the body of the vehicle, ensuring the clips are all aligned, and gently push the fender until it clicks into place. Reinstall the bolts on the fender liner. Reinstall the connector going to the fender light. For the driver's side, you just have to reinstall the 3 trim clips and place the fender liner back into position. If you did not option for our Boost Auto front-facing spotlight harness, you can skip to the next section. If you did not purchase our Boost Auto front-facing spotlight harness, you can either run the 2 pink wires to an auxiliary switch, or any 12-volt trigger will do. Just be sure it's a fuse circuit with 3 amp protection. If you did option for our Boost Auto front-facing spotlight harness, follow these next steps. To begin, unplug the red and pink wire from your spotlight switch and set it to the side. Tape the 2 wires to a straightened out metal piece. Route the wires to the driver's side of the vehicle. Untape the wires on the driver's side. Locate your preferred spot for the switch. If mounted to the dash, use a 13/16 size drill bit to mount the switch in its proper location. Reconnect the wires to the switch. The red wire will go to pin 2, and the pink wire will go to pin 1. Back on the passenger side kick panel area, cut the 2 pink wires from your mirrors to length. Then, strip the 2 wires and twist them together. Crimp both wires to one side of a butt connector. Then, on the other end of the butt connector, locate the pink wire from the front-facing spotlight harness. Strip and crimp the pink wire to the other end of the butt connector. Heat shrink the butt connector. Up top at the engine bay, if you'd optioned for our spotlight harness, you'll have this red power wire from it present. Cut the red wire you ran up there, and strip the end of the wire. Take your inline fuse that has a butt connector on one end and a ring terminal on the other end, and connect it to the red wire. Then, crimp it together. Heat shrink the butt connector. Remove this nut here at the positive terminal. Install your ring terminal, then reinstall the previously removed nut. Now we can reassemble our door panel. Start with tying up the harness. If you had disconnected the connector on your door panel, go ahead and reconnect them at this time. Slide the door panel back on. Once lined up, click the door panel back into place. Reinstall the 2 Torx screws at the bottom. Reinstall the door panel trim cover. Pull on the door handle and slide it into position. Then press it back into place. Reinstall the Torx screw. Then the trim cover behind the door panel. Next, reinstall the 2 screws at the door grab handle. Put the cover back into place. Now, if your vehicle has manual windows, here's how you can reinstall the hand crank. Start by partially putting back the clip onto the back side of the hand crank. Once the clip is partially in, you can now reinstall it to the door. As you can see, it's slotted, so when reinstalling, make sure you're on a groove and firmly press it back into place. Then, push the clip in to make sure the hand crank is fully seated. Then, repeat these same steps on the passenger side of the vehicle. Reinstall your negative battery connector. Test to make sure the lights are operational. Then, proceed with tucking any wires or harnesses out of the way from any heat or moving components. That wraps up this installation for our Jeep trail mirrors. If you guys like what you see or are interested in any other Boost Auto product, go ahead and visit boostauto.com. If you're interested in more videos like this from Boost Auto, go ahead and visit our YouTube page. Until next time, we'll catch you in the next one.